Scottish Parliament. Let's move away from all, to a degree, the politics today, because after 70 years on the throne, every aspect of the relationship between the monarch and her prime ministers has become deeply familiar to the Queen and indeed to the rest of us. 14 very different men and women have held the country's highest political offices since 1952, 10 Conservatives and 4 Labour. Ideologically, they have covered a wide spectrum of views. And to get a sense of what that relationship is like between the monarch and her prime ministers, we're joined by the royal expert Arthur Cassidy. Arthur, very good afternoon to you.
Good
Fascinating,
afternoon.
isn't it, that the Queen's been around for such a long period of time, been on the throne for 70 years this year. She has seen our first Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, right up to Boris Johnson.
She has indeed, and is very stoic, and she is one who is very fully compliant with legislation. And as we can see, and she testifies to this day by day, she is a sticker for rules and for really compliancy, for conformity. And we can see this because she doesn't suffer fools gladly. I mean, the monarch did not particularly like, Ted Heath and Margaret Thatcher, but she did like Harold Wilson. And she doesn't like some of these other people, these other prime ministers, because of past hostilities to the Commonwealth. So she can become indignant, but she is a very, very private individual.
Indeed, but she still maintains, doesn't she, that weekly meeting with whoever the Prime Minister is. And one can be left to no doubt the most recent one, or the one I think that might be happening this afternoon, will be with Boris Johnson, given the fact that he's had to publicly apologise to her for those revelations about parties in Downing Street on the eve of her husband's funeral.
She would be very forgiving and understanding. She does have huge empathy. But the Queen is one who is his boss. But she would expect him not to be the leader that he has been, and one who would adhere to the rules that he creates and his parliament. After all, she is his boss, and she could take further action. She does have reserve powers, remember, and she could do this. But what we have to remember is that Boris Johnson does have to now show his authentic self as a political leader with political integrity, but also to lead his parliament. And to do this, he has got to be seen to demonstrate vigilance, and huge vigilance, where decision-making is going to affect the constitution, but also the electorate and the people of the UK.
And just very finally, Arthur, you touched upon it there, didn't you? 70 years on the throne, from Churchill to Boris Johnson. Do we know who her favourite was? I know you talked about Harold Wilson. Do we know, out of all the 14 men and women, who she most really preferred and liked?
The Queen is extremely private. We know that, and all political commentators do know that. But we do know, going back over her 70 years of rule, she has those that she did particularly show an orientation to, a likeness for. Now she does, and she did do. Harold Wilson stands out in my mind, as I followed her all down the years as a psychologist. But she has had great empathy for him simply because of social justice. Her faith determines her action. And that's the reason why she believes so steadfastly in government making proper rules that are rules for the people. That's why she is drawn to consistency for a Prime Minister who can deliver and one who has got integrity.
OK, Arthur Cassidy, appreciate your time. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this afternoon. Lots to get in touch, unsurprisingly, about Partygate, GB Views.